Proverbs 1:1 slash King Solomon's wisdom. It starts off like this quotation: the proverb of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. I just want to remind you guys, this is a writing to his son. This is a whole book about him writing instructions and wisdom and things he learned to his son. And I think it's amazing to be able to teach your kids and so forth, and how he's teaching it. And he's actually able to write it down so other people can learn the lessons and hopefully not make the same mistakes. And it's a good role model for us also. Just try to help people out, be discerning. And well, there's a question that comes up. Is Solomon someone you'd want to learn from? I think so. We oftentimes point out his weaknesses, the weaknesses of Solomon, but he has a lot of strength. Uh, Solomon, father David, never stopped having war, everlasting war. It sounds a lot like right now. There's constant war in the Middle East. But what was interesting about King Solomon is that he was able to actually bring peace in the Middle East, and it was through peace. It was through diplomacy and strength. So it's not just one side, but he was willing to use diplomacy, and Solomon completely transformed, you could say, Israel. He built a beautiful temple. It was one of the wonders of the world. He improved the education through his writings. He completely changed the economy status of the country to the point where silver was basically not considered valuable. He had many wives, so you could say relationships status. He could have teach a lot. There's Songs of Solomon which you could learn from. He had a strong military, and at the same time a military that had esteem. He had great knowledge. There's plenty of royalties, and there's an example of one that wanted to hear the lesson that he would give, what he would teach. He was a huge spiritual blessing, and he experienced a huge spiritual blessing in his life. For example, the temple was built by him, and God didn't want David, his father, to build it. Um, he wrote one of the most popular parts of the Bible. He had it all, and it's not like like a fake story, or it's not true, because the Bible exposes his weaknesses, and at the same time shows the value, brings a huge value, and like it highlights his strength, and there was a lot of them, and this is like part of them. Another thing is his life has a lot to learn. He brought a lot to table. He brought how to maintain proper living. And the reason why I say his life had a lot to learn, because at the end of his life, he became a mess. So basically, his life was a proverb, just like his writing. It's a lesson to stay alert despite of your understanding and experience. The Solomon's writings which stood through times. He wrote a lot more, but this is what stood through times: is Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes, and most popularly Proverbs. If you want to go into his life story, it basically is found in 1 Kings chapter 2 through 11. Basically, the summary of it all. Obviously, there's other parts that you could research, but that's one of the main ones. Popularity of his work was extremely vast. Keep in mind, the Bible is number one in terms of literature, but most people, when they study the Bible or read the Bible, they include Proverbs consistently, and for very good reason. There's actually people that would read Proverbs a chapter a day just to keep it consistently in their life. And the reason why is because it brought extremely huge benefits in their lives, because there's 31 chapters, so 31 days in the month, and people would redo it. Proverbs specifically helps with everyday's life decisions. So, like, for you to say, how would most studying of the Bible be used? They would use separate and multiple. So there would be a history lesson from the Old Testament, stuff that happened. There would be teaching from the New Testament, and there would be Psalms for motivation, and it would usually finalize with Proverbs for daily decisions. It's almost in every single one. Whole Bible studies and so forth brings in Proverbs. It brought great results. Um, it would literally help transform the everyday life of a person in terms of giving them guidance. Uh, The main problem that we find in Solomon's writings is that people don't always understand the characteristics of a proverb. They read it like a story or a teaching, and it could really trip somebody out because it could seem like a complete contradictions. You need to understand each quotation, the background story behind it. You need to think, find it. It's not just something you just read and it's like spoon fed. It's a quote. And it has a huge setting behind it, and it's designed to change the way of thinking on a certain subject and so forth. Here's a great example. This is Proverbs 26:4. 4 and 5. I'm going to be reading it. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. Okay, interesting. And then next verse. Answer a fool according to his folly, and he will be wise in his own eyes. So it's like, that's interesting. Notice that if you're going to take this as a direct instructions, there's two different instructions. Do I answer him or do I not? Do I try to combat it or do I not? So you can't take it as a direct command. Can you take it as a story? Well, what's in the story, Like it's in the format of instruction, so you can't fully take it as a story. This is why people can get tripped up and not find Proverbs or the work of Solomon as interesting. Obviously, most people find it still valuable, so this is why reading, but it could be very helpful to understand that it's designed to challenge the way of thinking. For example, answer a fool according to his foolishness, right? Makes you look like a fool. It's a matter of fact. But if you don't answer him, he'll consider himself wise. But answer him will make you look like a fool. But at the same time, it will expose his foolishness. So there's still value. It's kind of like, it's a way of thinking. It's a comprehension. It's different. Notice that Proverbs makes you think. It gives you reason for why you do things, and it also points out the outcome. This is the way it's designed. It's not designed to kind of guesstimate. No, it's designed to improve your thinking, your decision making, and so forth. Keep in mind that Solomon was one of the most successful persons throughout history in regards to anything, basically. And he was one of the few that was successful and that was actually able to express himself, put into writing, that lasted all these years and been translated to so many different languages. And the translation wasn't able to diminish the benefit it could bring. So it's astounding, the great work that it's a huge benefit to us. It's something you should study. It improves our lives. And keep in mind, there's no excuses why you can't read Proverbs, the book of Proverbs or Ecclesiastes or Songs of Solomon for a relationship and so forth, because it's literally free. You can go online and find it. It's always available. You could read it online, you could read it in apps, and you can read it in most languages because there's plenty of translations. So there's absolutely no excuse why you shouldn't be reading this book and actually improving your life. But I think one of the challenges with it is that since it's available and since you can basically always read it, right? You kind of lose the enthusiasm. But the fact is that reading it will transform your life. And in terms of being a successful person or improving your life, it's huge. It literally transforms your thinking. But if you want to be a fool, you want to live a foolish life, don't read Proverbs. Don't try to understand it. You won't like what you read, and you won't like what you understand, because it's completely opposite of foolishness.